Ready to stop spinning your wheels and start moving your business forward? You're in the right place. On each episode of Accelerate to Achieve, we'll discuss a crucial step in the journey, offering tips and advice that you can apply immediately within your own company. From financial management to customer success to digital transformation, we'll cover it all while providing leadership lessons from top industry insiders. In just 15 minutes, you'll be inspired to build momentum through action and achieve incredible results. Welcome to Accelerate to Achieve, the podcast that moves you from question to answer and idea to execution. Hello, and welcome back to the latest edition of the Accelerate to Achieve podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Walter, the founder of Parrels Advisory. It can be hard, even in the best of times, to keep all our plates spinning in the air. When you throw in levels of uncertainty and change never seen before, it's almost impossible to pull things off. Our guest today has experienced just that throughout the last year and is here to share what was learned and how she managed to navigate all these potholes while so many had to pull off the road. Lori Ryan is the president of the Exton Region Chamber of Commerce and responsible for the strategic planning and operation of the organization, serving the interest of its many business members. As the pandemic dramatically impacted commerce, particularly on the local and regional level, she spearheaded efforts to support, inform, and advocate on behalf of businesses, all the while guiding the chamber in determining how it could best assist its stakeholders. Lori, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Ryan. I really appreciate the opportunity to share my story.
So I'd love to jump straight into your story. And if you could just tell us a little bit more about the situation you found yourself in, kind of March timeframe in 2020. And, as it started, how was the level of chaos compounding for you?
So yes, I think about this a lot. The Exton Region Chamber of Commerce is one of 9 chambers in Chester County, and we're known for our networking opportunities. We are very successful at it because of our members and the ability and willingness for our members to connect and lift each other up at any time. And we found ourselves, like a lot of businesses in the Exton region, really poised to do amazing in 2020. We had 21 new members in just 2 short months, a lot of renewals, and everything was well on track. And then everything shut down. I work in a very spacious office full of space for networking and meetings. And now I was in my living room with a little table, hoping it was just a 2-week stint working from home. And trying to figure out, like most businesses and individuals and organizations in the country, really, what are we going to do next? And it was frankly terrifying, because what I am best at is making connections to support businesses and nonprofits. And I'm known as a fixer, and I had no idea what I was fixing or how to fix it. And that is very humbling, to say the least, especially when you are thinking of industries like restaurants and hospitality and gyms, that movie taverns, that were just, really didn't have much hope of opening for quite a long time. Fear about people being sick or the frontline workers. And you just would hear all these stories. And frankly, as you mentioned, I could have just gone to the side of the road, as many could, but realized that's not what the chamber is or this community is. We're about lifting each other up, and like a rising tide, raising all ships. And it just happened to be that some boats were dry and some boats were really wet. What got me through it, and I can say this about a lot of other chambers as well, is we all collaborated. I'm a regional chamber and had the opportunity to work closely with other regional chambers, but also county chamber, state chamber, the US chamber, to provide as much information as we could gather so that I could share it with my members. I didn't realize how many people on my email list that aren't members were reaching out because they didn't have that that safety net of knowledge as a non-member. I like to think of it that way. And I was learning more and more about things I never even had a clue about. And that was, working with the chambers as well as the county. The county and the state government was providing as much information as they could receive it about how to apply for grants and apply for loans and the PPP and getting PPE. I remember the county requisitioned a lot of PPE for nonprofits and small businesses, and it was very reasonable. And it was such a thrill for me to be able to deliver in person, even with mask and 12 feet apart, just to like be out and being around people again. So it was quite an interesting time. I still have a little bit of PTSD about it, but I am happy that I was able to take all that information that was provided me, not just from those outlets, but also members as well. I mean, I know I've reached out to you, Ryan, with your expertise about feedback, as well as other members of mine who own small businesses or run nonprofits, to really get the information or the connections that I needed for people with their unemployment or the pandemic unemployment or the gig worker one, what to do if they didn't receive it. So my job really became more about, instead of throwing events, more about attending meetings to get information and then communicating that, whether it was from my website, email, social media, in person, on the phone, so that we could really just rise above it together. And we tried really hard to fight to open up the Chester County again. And it took a lot longer than we had hoped or expected or frankly think was warranted. And a lot of businesses, if they haven't closed already, don't see a light at the end of the tunnel. And that's where we fit in as well, about making those connections for places where there could be some collaboration with mergers or acquisitions, or even just connecting with people about reinventing their business, similar to things that you suggested with online ordering and that type of thing. I'll stop there for a second.
No, I think that's great. One of the things that I sort of feels really heartfelt in what you said was, particularly in light of throughout 2020, how difficult it was to see any two groups being able to communicate effectively together, whether it be political, local, or you name it, to hear about how much all the different groups at all levels kind of banded together and were there to support one another. So, I'd like to thank you for helping lead that charge and being part of it. And, I'm interested. Obviously, you were there in the beginning, and you talked a bit about how historically it was much more about helping folks network and connect. And now it was a lot of people from your customers and your stakeholders maybe not having information. What else did you learn about your customers and stakeholders there? And what else did you determine were key things you needed to do to continue to provide them value?
The one thing that really, really shouted out to me, or I don't even know a better word, but is how many stories there were of people lifting each other up. People, restaurants or caterers donating food, combining with different individuals or companies to support the essential workers, banding together to support each other. And they're not necessarily chamber members, but everybody was just trying to help each other get through this. A lot of chambers have very limited staffing, including mine. A number of people had to lay off their staff, and so there was a lot more to be done to support the businesses without without the staff. So we would help each other um, get the information that we needed to share and to connect the people. I saw not only in the business world and the chamber world, but the nonprofit world as well, where silos kind of broke down a lot. So that at the end of the day, it was more about getting people back to work safely, getting kids back to school so that people could go to work, just trying to do anything we could to work on the recovery in Chester County and the Exton region. And frankly, the struggle is still real. Um, and our while we were able to have a little bit more light at the end of the tunnel, especially with the vaccines that are hard to find in Chester County, um, providing that kind of information so that we can start to gather in person if we choose, plan some of these events so that people have the opportunity to showcase who they are in their business. Um, Frankly, it is challenging as long as people are working remotely for interaction with chambers or other small businesses that their customers are those employees, um, and you see that with the the dry cleaner or the salon. People, even clothes. I went to buy a suit and there's no suits because everyone's wearing um, nice comfy clothes from home. So it's just changing the perspective of a lot of things. And so I have to be leading the charge of, okay, it's not going to be the same. And how can we make the connections you need to make it better or the same, or it's not going to be the same, but move on that way.
It's funny. One of the things you said a little earlier in that statement reminded me. Very fortunate. I've spent a lot of time internationally for work in the past, and while it's easy at times for the U.S. to be the butt of some jokes, depending on where you fall on the spectrum at times, obviously when you're leading things in the world, you can be a target. What I would tell you though, consistently, I've always heard from folks is even with all of that, they said you're still the most kind of giving country. You're still the most, like, when the chips are down, you contribute more, you roll your sleeves up, you help your neighbor more than we've seen. And I think to the point you mentioned, we saw a lot of that. And, maybe there's some lessons we can take out of there. And then as you sort of continued on, you mentioned having to adapt and having to respond to what maybe was the new reality and what people needed. I think in the end of the day, it all really comes down to how are you helping people?
Right.
How are you servicing them? And it's a testament to what you've done to sort of pick that up and figure out where you could provide the greatest help. Because I think a lot of places got caught flat-footed as a result and had a hard time turning, the corner on it. So, I think there's a lot of businesses out there that thank you for that.
Thank you. And I mean, I really do think there's certain words or phrases I really don't ever want to hear again. But we are all in it together. So, and I think you will see more and more collaborations as we move forward to support each other and not just knock each other down. And that's something because we talk about schools or vaccines, whatever it is, there's a lot of uncertainty still that we all have to work together to get through. And however I can help to share that word or provide assistance, that's what we're here for.
So as we wrap up here, and I think this was a terrific outline of all the things you've done, your ability to sort of respond to real big gaps in communications, and I think everyone knew, and for maybe those not as familiar with business, guidance on what we need to do and changing guidance. There was so much there, and your willingness and ability to sort of serve as a conduit and help, I think helped a lot of groups out. Looking at the bigger picture, we all at times, and hopefully never, nothing as big as this again, face situations where the rug's pulled out from under us. Whatever we planned for just is no longer there. The world has changed. So when that happens, beyond advising people just give up, because I don't think any of us would do that, what advice do you have for people when, your world is turned upside down and you need to sort of soldier on?
I think clearly what we learned the most from 2020 is that we do have to have a plan, a pivot plan, and it shouldn't be necessarily just a afterthought or a gut knee jerk reaction. And I don't care who you are, what your organization is. It really is important to start thinking of, okay, if this doesn't happen, what do we do then? And it's uncomfortable, especially for nonprofits or not-for-profits like myself, but it's really important. It's also important to keep those relationships that were started during a pandemic so that if something happens, good, bad, or indifferent, that we have that core group to reach out to be part of. I know the Restore Chester County has started meeting again on a every other week basis. We had taken some time off after everything opened and met a lot less frequently, but there's still work to be done, and we need to get the recovery well on its way, and be prepared that what we learned in 2020 we should keep in the back of our mind at all times and be prepared that something different or the same could happen again, and that we got through it, and to prepare for what kinds of twists and turns that might bring us.
Well, Laura, I think that's a great place to sort of wrap things up. And thank you, for joining us today. And thank you for sharing the story, because obviously it wasn't one that was a straight path, and I'm sure had its trials and tribulations. It's not always easy to relive that, but there's so much folks can learn from this. And I know on behalf of so many in the region and nation, for all folks like yourself have done, thank you, and we really appreciate it.
And thank you, Ryan. I don't think any of us could do it without individuals and businesses and companies sharing their expertise, including you and Parrels Advisory. So I really appreciate your taking the time out of your day to include me in your podcast. And if there's anything else I can help with, please reach out to me at the Exton Region Chamber of Commerce for anybody that needs help or advice or a way to connect with other members.
We learn pretty early in life how little control we truly have. But when things shift from the typical day-to-day crazy to ludicrous speed, you can understand why someone would ask if they can just get off the ride. Now, I'd like to thank Lori for sharing her recent experiences with us, as well as some incredible advice that can benefit everyone. We may not always be in control, but we can control how we respond to it. Thank you for listening today. I look forward to joining you on the next episode. Until then, I'm Ryan Walter, and remember that solving your biggest business problem begins when you decide to accelerate your approach and achieve more.
At Parrels Advisory, our focus is your business's future. Having the right insight, experience, and perspective makes all the difference when tackling far-reaching issues within your company. We are here to simplify the steps, unlock your potential, and move you forward, making your vision a reality. We've helped startups achieve massive growth, mid-sized businesses navigate digital transformation, and enterprises embrace innovation. Wondering how to jumpstart your business and move it forward? Contact us to discuss your audacious goals during a complimentary consultation.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Accelerate to Achieve. If you're enjoying the podcast, please subscribe and leave a review wherever you listen. Don't forget to share the show with others who want more for their businesses. Got a question, feedback on the program, or interested in being a guest? Simply go to parrels.co/A2A-podcast and send us a message. That's PARRELS.co/A2A-podcast. To learn more about our work or to book a consultation, visit us at parrels.co/contact. Until next time, remember that solving your biggest business problems begin when you decide to accelerate your approach and achieve more.